there we go. Wait! Hang on!
Bombarder!
You guys, I swear to God. It was actually a radio station. This was Pavel. You wouldn't do that, would you? Let's see. Oh, did the audio source fuck up with Mix It Up? 1 second.
Why don't we like our audio issues? Yippee!
Okay, that should do it. That should do it. Hopefully. Still getting used to it. Okay, that looks like it worked. I saw sound. You all heard the boop, right? We good,
Yes.
right? Cool. Well, welcome everyone to Hyperfixation Station, a part of Vixie's Workshop, our creative hotspot here on Twitch. I am your host, Vixie the Carrot Call Skunk, or you can call me a Skitty if you're feeling cute. And today we have a guest, as we will always have for Hyperfixation Station. Would you like to introduce yourself, my guest?
What? No, I'm kidding. Hi, I'm Taya, the fluffy husky you see before you.
And Taya is one of our moderators, so she's around here very often. So if you're regular on the stream, she will need no introduction.
Exactly. If you are new, that's who I am. If you're not new, you should know who I am.
But as of yet, no other content creation or anything to plug, right?
No, nothing of note.
But still, that's not what this is about. Hyperfixation Station is a stream where I invite one of my friends to come and sit down with me and talk about that one thing that they feel like if they talk to anyone else about it, they'll get really bored and upset with them. But I want to encourage that. I love learning about new things, and I love learning new things, especially about my friends. And so, how this is going to work is that I let Taya choose a topic that she wanted to talk about, and she chose firearms. And so, she's going to be teaching us about firearms for the first hour. And then for the second hour, I'm going to start deep diving with her. Whether that means like, if it's like a game that someone wants to talk about, I'll try out the game. For firearms, it could be like diving into like, oh, what firearms would Vixie use? Because like, she might get into hunting or something like that. Who knows? So it's mostly a bit of a freeform type of content where we all get to learn a little bit more about something we wouldn't have otherwise had the chance to learn about. And that excites me. And I hope by doing this, I can help you guys learn to get excited about something you might not have otherwise had the opportunity to learn about. So, what we got up on the screen behind us, we have a whiteboard that both Taya and I have access to. Don't help, I don't have the eraser up. And we can go ahead and write whatever notes we want in order to keep track of the topic. And so that, especially if someone's coming in late, they can actually keep track of what the hell's going on.
Exactly.
Of course I'm a cutie. You know it. There's my heart. Alright. But yeah, that's a good idea. Let me actually change my color.
I don't even know how I changed my color. I think I just changed it because I also changed the pen size.
If you click and hold on the pen size, go ahead. change your color.
Well, ain't that neat?
And I'll go ahead and do purple.
Yay! The purple.
Oops, that's a
We're
that's the highlighter, not the eraser.
Wow, we're swapping colors.
Okay, pen test.
I am a whisk. Wow.
Okay. And before we get going, we had a few people come in, and I wanted to give a quick shout out. First of all, to Bite for the raid. Thank you so much for raiding on into us and sharing your community with me. You were doing Geometry Dash. Hope that was fun. And then we had both Zap and our honorable guest Taya coming with a 100 stream watch streak. Yeah, if you divide that up, we're talking about like, that's basically, is that a year? Okay, like 52 weeks in a year, and like 3 streams each. Okay, so that's like 2/3 of a year. Like pure watch energy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just straighten out as much as I can, being as gay as I can. Oh, Aiden is totally cute. Alright, so,
You're cute.
since we're talking about firearms, there's 2 things I want to talk about straight off the bat, which is usually the elephant in the room whenever firearms comes up. So first of all, especially in the United States, gun violence is a particularly bad problem. And I want to emphasize from me, and I'm sure I speak for Ty as well, each and every one of those crimes is a tragedy, and none of them should happen. Taya, do you want to take a minute to just quickly speak on how you feel about the gun violence issue and any thoughts you have on regulation?
Yeah, so obviously I don't support it. I have a fixation for weapons, but it's not in what some people might jump to assume. It's not in the, how can I put this in a somewhat kind but very blunt way? It's not in the Second Amendment kind of way. Not in the slightest. I do very much believe in the regulation of firearms. My hyperfixation more comes from a technology standpoint, more from a fascinated by their mechanics and their design standpoint, and not in an ownership design.
Right, and I'm sure then you'll agree with the second point, is that while you admire like the technology to it, you also respect the weapon and
exactly
respect just how powerful it is and how dangerous it can be in the wrong hands.
Exactly. And obviously, you know, being this is America, I know people have rights to own them, but I also am of the belief that there should be some restrictions to that, I think.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And in fact, I very much advocate myself for people to be able to own firearms.
Exactly.
But I don't think it should just be everyone. I think that there should be some reasonable standards to say confidently that this person respects the firearm and will only use it in situations where it's appropriate. And that includes knowing and respecting your gun safety. And that's the second topic I really wanted to get into. So, if you're ever interested in learning about firearms or potentially like renting one at a firing range to try out, make sure you pay attention to every safety note that they give
Oh
you.
gosh, yes. The amount of things
Because they could save your life and save the life of those around you. Because accidents can and will happen with these instruments.
Oh, for sure. I've seen a lot. Yep.
You want to talk a little bit about it, or about like some of the basic safeties or anything?
Like, obviously, I know some people probably know this already, but it's always good to go over because things you'll see online of people not even knowing the basics. But no. Basically, the idea is that when it comes to handling them safely, there's always the common rules of keeping that finger off the trigger until you are extremely ready to use it. The other is to never, under any circumstances, as far as you can help, point it at anything you would not intend on destroying. So, like, that includes accidentally, even if your finger's off the trigger, that includes accidentally waving it in front of someone. You do not want to do that. No, big no.
That is even when the safety is on.
Correct. Which, that's another thing. Yeah, always make sure you have your safeties on too, by the way.
And for those of you who don't know, there is, in modern firearms, there is a safety, which, when operated correctly, prevents the weapon from firing.
Yep, it should, but as usual, again, as the common rule is, you still don't want to go flagging it at people, because it's, yeah.
Yeah, you always want to treat a weapon as if it is loaded and as if it is live.
As I like to describe it, it is a tool. It's a dangerous tool, but it is a tool, and as a dangerous tool, you want to treat it as such.
Just like if you light a campfire, you don't go like jumping and rolling around in it just because it's silly. If you have a kitchen knife, you don't go like, oh hey, check it out, and wave it at your fingers. Goes doubly true with firearms. And
exactly.
It's why, especially when you're starting out, they supervise you very strongly. Okay, now that we got those important points out of the way, let's get to the fun part. Taya, take it away and teach us all about firearms.
Ooh, I would be more than happy to. Oh boy. So, like I mentioned earlier, my hyperfixation of these comes more from a design standpoint and an innovation standpoint, and just how they just generally look and function, and all the myriad ways people have come up with different methods of use for them. Whether it be a lot of the good or some of the weird and bad. Because believe it or not, some weapon designs weren't good. Who'da thunk it?
Right. But they really are just like marvels of engineering.
Exactly, and that, like I said, that's where my fixation comes from. Just marveling at their engineering, and obviously, with something like this, there is a long history of this engineering. So, I want to just talk about kind of how we got here first, with like just seeing how history went about them. I probably won't go back like super far just for sake of time, but I will make a quick note that you will not believe how far back these go technically.
Yeah, my instincts wants to say it's like started with the Chinese, because I know that they had a lot of innovation with like adjacent technology.
Yep, the Chinese in the 10th century, and you will not believe it. It was just they took a stick, put a little what's the word I'm looking for here? Put a little cradle holder thing on the end of a stick that had like gunpowder in it, and they just lit with a match, and boom, just a big stick gun, basically.
Jesus Christ.
Like, it was literally just a little cradle that held your gunpowder and whatever you wanted to throw out that thing, and they just kind of lit it with like a little heated stick that would light that gunpowder. Because, you know, go figure, they invented gunpowder. Wow, I think everyone knows that part at least. But I just wanted to throw in that little tidbit, because like that's how early this stuff was invented. Obviously, was it good? Debatable, you know, it was first invented, it's gonna have its quirks, and obviously the technology was bare bones, but you know, that's how far back it went.
That's crazy.
And something, I didn't look into it a whole lot, but I think something I've seen a little bit of and heard about is how like that new that new like Kingdom Deliverance game, I think it was, or one of these medieval games that came out recently, how they actually have those in that game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
showing how far
I
back they
love
go.
when like video games actually reference true historic events.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's just fascinating. But obviously now we skip a few centuries to get to where I really want to kick off our history of this stuff, and where you probably start to see more common and where people might know more about the musket rifles. How we got to that. And
Okay,
I'm sure.
what year are we at for musket rifles?
So musket rifles, I think technically those started kind of around like 14th, 15th century, but for our sake we'll go slightly beyond that. So
Okay.
like what you might know commonly as muskets.
Okay.
But that's kind of about when they kick off. And as I'm sure a lot of you know, a musket is just a big rifle that just had a barrel on it, and it was operated with a flintlock that fired just a ball out of the end of it.
Right.
Now, the fascinating thing about this was, muskets was a marvel of engineering back then. So the thing you need to realize is that a lot of the armor back then was really good against things like arrows, crossbows, stuff like that. Guns introduced a very interesting change in warfare because those projectiles had the power to punch through that stuff. So, and not to mention just how far they could be fired. So, like, while sure, the musket rifle, when you look at it by today's standards, is extremely clunky. It's very not good if you consider today's standards. But when you think about it in the context of its history, those things were game changers. So, how they work, in case people don't know. I mean, I don't know. Some people probably don't, for all I know.
Okay.
Very simple concept. Very efficient. Very simple. The idea was that you would, in order, take your rifle. You would load in the gunpowder, because that's the ignition source that launches your thing out. You load in the gunpowder. And after that, you kind of load in your little ball, like a little steel ball that was used as your projectile. You would load that in. And then one thing you'll see with muskets that you might know about is how you would take this thing called a ramrod. And as the name implies, you ram that thing down, because part of how a gun works, which you will see throughout every iteration of Firearm from this point forward, part of the way they work is the condensing of that gunpowder. In order for a weapon to work, any weapon whatsoever, doesn't matter what kind of weapon you're using, in order for anything to work, that gunpowder has to be in a confined space. So that ball that was being loaded in would be of the exact size of the barrel you're loading it into, so very finely engineered.
Yeah, because any
composition...
space that you have is a space that the exploding gases can escape without providing thrust.
And that's the common idea around all firearms, both old and new. You're using the gas power of that gunpowder explosion to propel something forward, a bullet of some kind.
Right.
And if there's any gaps, that gas will escape around it and thus extremely weaken the projectile. So you would take the ball, ram it down to condense the gunpowder and make sure there's no gaps. And then from there, you would cock back a little lever on the side. And I can even send you an image so we can start showing you now what I'm talking about. If you want.
Yeah, please.
Yep.
Any visual aids will help.
Yep. I'll just here. I can send it over to your DMs. You can show it on your thing. Yep. So there you go.
There we go. That's what Taya sent me.
Yep. So this is an example of a musket. Obviously, every nation would have had their own variation of this design, but this is...
Sorry, just give me a second. Hi, Buff
You're
Cowboy. Thanks for the
cute.
hug. You sweetie.
Aww.
Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, so obviously different nations would have had their different tweaks of design on this, but this was the basic composition of musket back then. Not many things would have deviated from this design for a while until we start getting further into the future from this point. But the idea is that you see that little rod on the bottom? That's your ramrod. You would literally pull that out and then ram your bullet down, then put your bullet back.
Okay, okay. And then I'm seeing there's also like I'm guessing some like rings for stability there. I see what I'm guessing is a sight on the top.
Yep, that would be a sight. Obviously, sights, obviously you'd use it to aim to see where you're gonna shoot the thing.
And what exactly is that lever on the top for?
That's what's getting to. That lever was the ignition method that fired your musket. How it would work is you pull back that lever, and depending on the model of your gun, you would probably load in a little extra gunpowder into where that lever strikes down. You'd like load in a little extra, so it kind of like chains the little explosion.
Taya? Did we lose our guest?
Strike. Oh?
Oh, we lost you for a second.
Oh. That's weird.
So, the last thing that we caught was that in certain models, you load a certain amount of black powder into the place where the hammer would strike down.
Yep, correct. So that's what you would do. And then upon pulling back the lever, it'll stay in a cocked position. And then in order to fire the weapon, you would pull the trigger, and upon the pull, that lever would spring forward, striking that powder, creating a spark, and that spark would light the powder. That would then go into your barrel, and thus fire the gun.
Okay, well, wait. Brain is firing here.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of the media where they have these muskets, they'll call them flintlock.
Correct.
Does that imply that the ignition method comes from striking some sort of flint that's embedded in the gun?
Correct.
Awesome.
Yep, you are very right.
Skunky big brain moment.
Yep, that's what's in here. And you know what? Here, I'll even give you another image to actually exactly about that. This would be another.
It might be good, Taya, to look at Twitch chat too, because Buff Cowboy is trying to contribute.
Oh yeah, yep. Gunpowder is what they also use in firecrackers. Yep, you are exactly correct.
Oh, and Bite said something too.
Yep. Tube, acceleration, and a loader body. Yep. More or less, yeah, that's every firearm in a nutshell, as far as like the extreme basics.
Yep.
Yep. So that image that I sent you. Oh, hi, Julie. Don't worry, you're fine.
Hi, Late. I'm Vixie.
Also, yes, you have to be very careful with gunpowder. Gunpowder is no joke.
Oh, I imagine, yeah. I mean, you put the same types of ingredients in rocket fuel, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. More or less.
Julie has a question for you.
Oh, musket. It's a musket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think since you an image of what a flintlock is, it works the same way, but
well,
you'll see.
According to the image name, it says that it is a British pattern 1853 rifle.
Ah, yep. That is the specific model of this musket.
Okay. So back to the whiteboard?
Yep, back to the whiteboard.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, flintlock is just another way that was ignited. Like, literally just have a little piece of flint in that hammer that would strike down, but same function. Hammer, strike down, spark, boom. Now, for the longest time, this would be a peak of engineering for the time it was born in, and for quite a while, this would be the standard fare of weaponry. Just some form of musket. Obviously, there would be slight variations, like the flintlock pistol, a pistolized version of it, which was just a shorter version that could be held in one hand.
Mm-hmm.
Or the blunderbuss, which we can affectionately call a shotgun of the age.
Okay.
Which worked the same.
Which I have heard that, like, traditionally we think of shotguns as like the inaccurate gun because instead it does a spread fire. But
yeah. Oh, I have so many things to talk about that in a moment.
But these muskets historically were really inaccurate from what I heard before.
Yep.
Compared to modern firearms.
Oh, exactly. Yep. One thing they were marvels at their time, but one thing to keep in note is when you do compare them to current day stuff, oh, they had inaccuracy problems, and it all came down to that barrel I mentioned. Believe it or not.
Okay, let's go back. Barrel. Okay, we're listening.
Yep, so that barrel, while, don't get me wrong, these things, for their time, perfect, amazing. They were definitely far better than like your typical bows and arrows and whatnot. But there was the inaccuracy problem, and it all comes down to that barrel, because believe it or not, the inside of the barrel can also affect how the weapon works.
Okay.
So these were what is affectionately called smoothbore, which, as the name implies, the inside of the barrel is just a smooth barrel. The inside is just smooth, finished polish.
That's kind of sounds like what you'd want, right? Because you don't want anything to like get between the bullet and getting out, right?
You would think, yes, that is exactly what you would think. However, we'll get to this in a little bit as we start getting to the modern edition of Firearms. Believe it or not, smoothbore can actually cause inaccuracy problems, and there's a very specific reason that I'll get to in a moment as to why.
Wait. Fuck. Sports analogy. Have you heard of like with like baseball, like a top spin or like a backspin on the ball?
I think so.
So, yeah, let me see if I can actually like show this effect. But in sports, there's a basic principle that when you put a spin on a ball, it'll actually change its trajectory. And in certain cases, like depending on where you want the ball to go, you need it spinning in order to be accurate. Anyway, I don't want to like go on too much of a tangent, but I'm guessing based on that, yeah, I can get into that later, even in private if you want, but I'm guessing based on that knowledge that what you're gonna be getting at is in order for the bullet to be more accurate, you need to apply a spin on the bullet in order to like stabilize it in the air.
Are very correct.
Yes! that's
these
2
barrels...
points for the big brain stunky moment!
Good job, big applause. I can get more into it when I get to the modern editions, but to keep it simple for now. The idea is that yes, because the barrel is smooth bore, is a completely smooth barrel. While it's good for getting the bullet from point A to point B, it does mean that the ball coming out of it doesn't have any real spin or anything. So there's a chance it could fly off not straight sometimes.
Right, which is actually a strategy in a sport like tennis, where
exactly
if you normally you're going to put a spin on that ball so that it goes straight, but it also makes it predictable where it's going to land so the opponent can get in the right place.
Exactly.
But if you hit it in a way that there's no spin on the ball, then it bounces randomly to throw them off.
Yep. All right. So this is how muskets work. Now, for the longest time, this would be what they would be. The only real iterations would be things like pistol versions of these or the blunderbuss versions of these, but was sure any firearms with a safety clip on it? Yep, correct. But for the longest time, this is how it would be. But of course, as with any technology, gradually they want to expand upon it and reinvent upon it and make it better. So at some point, people realize that, well, the single loading of every single bullet after you fire gets a little tedious sometimes. Reloading these things was not fast in the slightest, not at all. So people try to create workarounds. And some of the first workarounds we would come to know about are things like revolvers and Gatling guns, believe it or not.
Well, just in my naive perception, those two seem to be like in completely different classes of firearms.
They are, and I can even show you real quick. Let me get more images as you write. So let's see, let's copy this and send it over. This will be the revolver, one of the very first ones. So it'll look a little funny, but. And then let me get the Gatling gun. send it over as well. There we go. Also, oh, thank you, cowboy. Thank you.
Is that little chef's kiss? Yes.
Alright, so these are revolvers. Don't think I have to explain too much. I'm pretty sure everyone pretty much knows what they are, but this is one of the first revolvers ever made, or at least, yeah, one of.
The Colt Patterson 5th model?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's correct. And the idea, very basic idea, but you will not believe how effective it is. The idea is that instead of having to reload after every single shot, because that gets meticulous, you can practice your speed and everything, but it still takes a while. The idea is, well, what if 6 barrels, all loaded from the start? And the idea is that you would fire one, and you can easily just rotate that barrel, and you already have another bullet ready to go.
Well, I'm already seeing an innovation beyond that, because, like, if you just think of the naive approach, you have 6 barrels the length of the gun, and you rotate those around. But in this case, that's not what they're doing.
Nope, it's not.
They kind of shorten that into whatever you call that barrel.
Yep. So you have the barrel and you have the revolving cylinder. That circle is the cylinder. That's where all your bullets are held. Now, as you can see, being the very first version, you may notice this looks a little weird, and that's because when this was made, this is still using the same concept that muskets use, except in 6 barrels. So it still uses the black powder loaded in first with the ball-bearing bullet loaded in after that, just on 6 barrels that rotate. So you have 6 shots, and then you have to reload it all like you would a musket, but you get 6 shots. Again, these are like the early ways they start trying to working around the whole every shot you have to reload thing. This is how it's like the early workarounds.
Yeah. So naturally, like, you know, even though it's got an improvement, it's gonna have some. It definitely has some ways to go as far as quality of life.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So this is one of the first ways they worked around it. Just more barrels that would rotate around a cylinder. It still fires the same bullet with the same loading, but with 6 barrels, you can fire 6 shots rapidly and then reload them all. And usually, if you're in just some random scuffle like in the Wild West or whatever, 6 shots is all you really need. Then your fight's done, and you have all the time in the world to reload it after the fact when there's no more combat. But yeah, that's basically the idea. That was one way they worked around it. The other way is that other image I sent you.
Gotcha. Oh, but I am really enjoying this stream too. As long as one of you in chat is enjoying this, I'm happy. Everyone who's enjoying this stream, sound off, throw out emotes. We want to hear you. Because, like,
come on, raise your voices.
Because, oh yeah,
Taya Fluff, you are a cutie ass husky.
There's Julie. Yeah. Yeah, I'm already calling this stream a success because I am having such a great time talking about this.
Oh, that's good. But yeah,
Buffcut, I'm ashamed to admit, Warhammer 40k is foreign to me. It is Greek to me.
But yeah, so
here's image number 2.
Yep, this was the other way that worked around it. This, the Gatling gun. You remember what you said about the whole barrel long thing? This is basically it right here. How this works.
Oh yeah!
This is literally what this is they stuck a mag on top, which, by the way, real quick aside, they are magazines, not clips.
Wait, okay, so that's right here?
Yep, right there. So that's a magazine. Okay. That would have your ammunition loaded in. And literally how this worked was, you see that crank on the side right there?
Yeah.
You literally grabbed it and cranked it, and that turned the barrels. And every barrel that turned would fire out a bullet.
Gotcha,
this would be one of the...
So...
This... Hmm?
Oh, she said the line. Okay. So, sorry, my movie perception is like, this magazine is like really straight and rigid, but like movies for a gun like that, it has like a big ribbon feeding in. Am I wrong?
Not really. I can get to that in a moment.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, so obviously you literally just spin the barrels around. The Gatling gun. One of the first attempts at something more automatic.
Got it. It looks like this is definitely the same era that they were using cannons.
Oh yeah, no, this is absolutely still in line with about the same era, not far after it.
Mm-hmm. Because
You
you
are not
got
wrong.
the same mobile mount structure to it.
Correct, you do. That is indeed the same mounting structure. This would be one of the first attempts at something that we will call a self-loader.
Okay. So
Obviously, as
and
the name implies, a self-loader loads itself.
is that what we would refer to as like semi-automatic?
Indeed.
Okay.
Basically, self-loader is the term used for weapons that can quote-unquote load themselves, i.e. like have a magazine or belt feed or whatever method. That's a self-loader.
Okay. Gotcha.
Basically just it would quote-unquote reload the next bullet itself.
Because this would be pretty
Instead
pointless
of-
if you had to like keep shoving black powder in for after every shot.
Exactly. So, these are some of the changes we start to see as history goes about. Another change we'll start to see as we start getting into further into the future and start getting into our war times, so like 1800s, 1900s, is a change on the rifles, because, you know, rifles are also still getting improved upon, by the way. Something that'll change, and revolvers too, by the way, something that'll change is the invention of what you might now know as the typical bullet. What you might actually see in today's stuff. The invention of the bullet. Where instead of just loading in the powder freely into your gun, you would take a brass casing and have all that gunpowder inside of there.
Do you got an image for
And
that?
Oh, yes. I can just pull up just an image of a bullet. Fair, pretty much. Honestly, let me just do that. Actually,
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will have seen this,
yeah, obviously, but
but
I
at the
can
same
go.
time, next to have a visual
Mhm.
aid.
Yeah, a visual aid. I get you. I'll just do this honestly.
Cool.
Yep. So
The modern
bullets.
bullet.
The modern bullet. When these start coming into play, that's when you start seeing more of the things you might commonly associate with firearms.
So,
don't-
just for transparency, you know, just in case someone's new to this, when
Mhm.
you actually fire the gun, it's this copper piece of metal that exits.
Yep, that's the bullet that fires out. What it's attached to is called the casing, the brass casing. The idea was that instead of loading in your powder into the gun freely, like you did with muskets, you load your gunpowder into those brass casings. What it allowed for, besides just ease of containment for that powder, so it was not susceptible to the elements, was also the ability to start creating a lot of these self-loaders and more modern firearms.
Is this something that they would like a user would know how to do? Like they would have a machine to like.
Basically,
load-
these would be these would be machined and loaded in at like a factory or whatever, or by a person.
Oh, by a.
The
Okay,
idea,
so these were already being factory made and sold. Got it.
yeah, the idea is that obviously you still have to load the gunpowder into it and everything, but because it's now in a shell casing like this, it's a lot easier to carry around and load into whatever you want to shoot on a moment's notice.
Right, because because it's already compacted, so you don't.
Because it's
need-
already compacted. Yep. The thing with muskets that you had to every single time you had to load into your powder, then load in your ball bearing bullet. But with these, you can load in ahead of time
Right.
in mass quantities, and then whenever you need them, you just put them in the mag you want them in, put it in, Bob's your uncle.
Yay! Or
No.
or Bob's dead, depending on
Depending on more maybe Bob's dead if Bob was trying to kill you or something, who knows? But yeah, so the invention of these, which I don't have an exact date on these, but I know like early turn of the 1900s, maybe even like a little before the 1900s, so like late 1800s, you see these come into play. And because these are now in play, you now get things like the revolvers you see today, where instead of just 6 black powder ball bearings in the chamber, you now have 6 bullets in your cylinder, like you would see in more common revolvers. Or, in the case of rifles, you now start seeing rifles with magazines, where you can load them in a mag, and now, instead of constantly reloading after every single shot, you can fire and then literally just do whatever mechanism that rifle has, which in the 1900s is usually lever action, in this case, to load to load another bullet and be ready to fire again immediately. Another big game changer.
Oh, definitely sounds like it. Like, whoever came up with a modern bullet, that changed the face of firearms forever.
Exactly, because that allows for so much self-loading inventions to come into play. So, like, you start seeing things like your lever-action rifles, your more common revolvers, and with enough time, you start seeing the automatic rifles. Like SMGs, assault rifles, you name it. And the idea around those...
Alright, and to be clear, when you're saying, like, SMGs and stuff like that, it can be kind of hard for someone who's never been into firearms to distinguish with, like, what is a type of gun versus what's a brand of a gun.
Yep, so this is where I will start explaining that for you.
Okay, so...
Because, you know, now we're starting to get to a point where a lot of these different categories come into play. Like, back then, it was just single load musket, done. That's kind of your only thing. But now we're starting to get into variations, so that's where I'll start explaining it.
Give me a sec.
Oh, yeah.
Set this aside over here. Make some space. Okay.
So that's where I'll start explaining the differences now, since you actually start seeing differences now.
Okay.
So let's start with... We'll keep to the handgun category. Very simple. Self-loading, semi-auto, self-loading, sidearms.
Okay, so firearms. Look at pistols now.
Yep. So this one, very simple. Not much to explain on this one. Basically, just pistols would encompass just your single handheld weapon they can hold in one hand. Obviously, still very preferred to double hand for your best accuracy and safety, but you know, it's small enough you can one-hand it pretty easily and not worry about like recoil or weight problems, right?
Right, and so these mainly, I imagine, were designed for portability.
Yep, portability and the destruction of something that's not armored or small.
Right,
because as you might expect, go figure, something that's that compact is also going to fire a bullet that won't have the most energy compared to something bigger.
Right. And that starts to get into like muzzle velocity.
Yep.
Penetrative
Obviously,
power.
yep. But for the more simplified version, to keep things simple, because it fires a smaller bullet, it does less. Now, don't get me wrong. These bullets will still pack a fucking punch, don't get me wrong. But compared to others...
people have died from pistols, yes.
Yeah, exactly. But compared to others, it is lesser on the scale. Because it is smaller. Think about things like 9mm, 45 ACP, you name it. I'll get to what those mean in a moment.
Those are words.
Yep, don't worry. I'll get into those in a moment. Don't worry. Now let's move on to some of these other definitions for like bigger weapons. All right.
Okay. Small rounds, lower velocity.
Yep, lower velocity. Correct. Oh, and actually, real quickly, I want to bounce back to something I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Remember what you said about your sports analogy with the spin Vixie?
Yeah.
Is also around this time you'll start seeing those come into play. You want to know how they pull that off?
Sure.
Basically, I don't remember the term off the top of my head for it. There is a term, but basically what they would do with the barrel is instead of being
rifling.
Yeah, rifling.
Sorry.
Rifling, yes, but there's different versions. But the basic form of it is that
Hi, Kid Astro.
instead of being smoothbore, they would basically kind of very small carve out little grooves in the barrel that would twist around the barrel. So like, hold on, let me. Actually,
Yeah,
I'm gonna draw
we
this
need a
myself.
picture for that.
Yep, hang on. I'll get an image and I'll draw too. But let me do. That's not how you spell it.
Oh, all right. Pulling down the music just a bit. Thanks for shouting it out, Julie.
You're cute.
Here, I'll send this image.
Dark Gloves, thank you so much for the cats! Welcome in! Oh, damn, I'm throwing it back too! Throw it back like no one's watching. Or like everyone's watching. I'm not your mom! Okay, so this is a diagram of rifling.
Yep. Now, obviously, it's a little bigger to enhance what's going on. It wouldn't be that big normally, but that's the idea. These little grooves that would twist around the barrel as it goes back into it.
Wait. Sorry, go ahead. Finish explaining, and this reminds me of something, is all.
Yep. So, because of this, when you shoot your gun, the gases that now propel your bullet forward, instead of going down a smooth barrel and adding no spin whatsoever, now travel down these grooves and start creating a spin in your bullet. So as it goes down the barrel, it starts to build up a spin. So when it comes out, it's spinning very rapidly, and that spin creates the forces to keep a bullet a lot more stable than smoothbore does.
Because like unlike an arrow, which uses like feathers or a tail fin to keep stability, you don't have that luxury here.
You don't have the luxury with that. If feathers on an arrow is helping, it's this spin motion that creates the stability it needs to not just fly anywhere.
Okay, this is what I was thinking of.
Oh. I can see where this is going. Yep.
This classic splash screen.
Yep.
The classic gun barrel.
Yep, that iconic James Bond gun barrel look down.
So you can see, what I wanted to point it out, you can see the spiral pattern around the circle, and that's meant to indicate the rifling of the gun.
Exactly.
And the point of the barrel sequence is that you try to get James Bond, but he'll always shoot first.
But yeah, I just wanted to bounce back on that real quick to tell you why they become more stable than smoothbore. But back to explaining the categories of weapons now.
Okay.
So, let's go to the rifles now. There's a lot of different versions of these, but let's go with the basics. So you have what we'll call semi-auto, full auto, and there's hybrids in between those, like bursts, but we'll just go over those two basics. Obviously, the names are kind of giveaways, but the idea is that semi-auto means that every single trigger pull is how you fire another bullet.
But you have to fully depress the trigger again in order to get another shot.
Yeah, so you press the trigger, one bullet fires. But as long as you keep pulling that trigger, nothing else happens. So you have to release it, then pull it again, fire again, release, pull again, fire again, rinse, repeat. That's semi-auto. Fully auto, or automatic rifles, is you hold down that trigger and bullets fly out automatically, one after another. Obviously, duh.
Sorry. I'm laughing because I'm thinking Meet the Heavy line.
Yeah, fair enough.
It costs something 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 to fire this weapon for 12 seconds.
Yep, automatics, there's not a lot to go about there. Obviously, every automatic works the same. It's you hold the trigger, bullets keep coming out. There's obviously your assault rifles that do that. There's your SMGs that do that, which I'll differentiate those real quick, by the way. What
Okay.
makes an assault rifle and what makes this SMG, which, by the way, SMG is short for submachine gun.
Okay, so those are both classified under full automatics, right?
Yep, they can be. Obviously, assault rifles can also fall under semi-auto. It just depends on how they build the gun. But for sake of full auto, we'll put it here.
Okay.
Now, what defines an assault rifle and a submachine gun? Well, at its core concept, it's the caliber of bullet that's fired out of it.
Ooh, yes,
There's-
bullet calibers.
There's other little bits and pieces, but the big separator is your caliber of bullet. The reason for this is excuse me. The reason for this is just because of what kind of force you're putting out, what kind of rate you're putting out, velocity, you name it. Remember what I said earlier about 9mm and 45 ACP?
9mm and 45 ACP. Yes, I do.
These are things called calibers. These are how you measure how big a bullet is.
Okay. Let's see. Let me make a note over here. We got bullets, which include 9mm 45 ACP.
Yep. Now, believe it or not, wouldn't you know it? Because one, it's the way technology innovation goes, and two, who would have think every nation does it their own way? That list of bullets can go on forever. But we'll keep it simple for this.
Ah! I just go ultra instinct and write every single one.
No. Trust me, there's way too many. We're gonna be forever for that. But no.
Wait, sorry, Fluff said someone. I don't know if it's a real world, but it's out there. There's also a duplex.
Oh, the duplex trigger, right. I'm trying to think, is there a real world use of that? I know I've seen it in games before, but I'm trying to think if there's a real, use of that.
For those of us who are uninitiated, do you want to explain the basic concept?
Okay, yeah, duplex, basically how it works. Remember how I said how the trigger pull is how you fire a bullet?
Mhm.
That thing? The concept of duplex, I think you usually see this in things like double-barrel shotguns, because this is where it'll be the most useful in. The idea of a duplex trigger is that when you go to pull it, obviously it fires a bullet, duh, but the release of the trigger will also fire a second bullet.
Wow.
So you pull for one, release for another. That's duplex.
That sounds like it would be really dangerous if you have no idea it's there.
Oh no, it trust me, it would. I've seen this used in video games for things like double-barrel shotguns, but I can't recall if there's an actual real-world use of this.
Okay, because it sounds like a nightmare waiting to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a video game mechanic for double barrels, but real life, I don't know. But anyways, so back to the bullets.
Yeah, we're grounded in reality for this particular lecture.
Exactly. So back to the bullets. So these determine what makes an assault rifle and an SMG. The caliber of bullets, which the caliber is basically the measure of the bullet. Basically, how long is it? How wide is it? What kind of force is it putting out? Things like that. Usually, caliber is things like 9mm, 45 ACP, 30-06, you name it. Generally, what you hear for caliber is the measure of it. So 9mm is, you guessed it, 9mm long.
Sure, and 45 ACP is 45 ACPs long.
Some bullets have weird naming conventions. That's where you don't listen. Typically, they're named after their length, but not always.
That is definitely something that has always confused me, because I have heard of different caliber designations, but if you're just trying to compare the numbers with each other, technically,
Oh yeah.
if you just compared numbers, you might naively think that 9mm, 9 is much bigger than 0.45.
Exactly.
But that doesn't actually mean that the 9
Nope,
is bigger
it does not.
than the 0.45.
Yep, so obviously when you want to compare them, that's when you start getting into guides and whatnot, but usually calibers are listed by their length, like 9mm, but not all the time. So that's why we won't go into too much of a list, but for the sake of defining what's an SMG and what's an assault rifle.
Sage,
And
welcome in! We're an hour into our history lesson, which, yeah, you can keep going, because you clearly have more ready to talk about, and I wanted to hear it.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
But yeah,
So
so just to catch you up, Sage, right now we're actually talking about the different types of firearms that are currently available, and what's the difference between each of them, and specifically we're now talking about bullets and the different calibers.
Yep, so SMGs, or sub-machine guns, the reason why they're called sub-machine guns is because of the calibers, which, wouldn't you know it, shares the same calibers, usually, again, there's always the outliers, but again, simplifying, usually share the same caliber as pistol bullets.
Right. That is something I had heard.
Yep. So let's take what's a good SMG to go for example here. Let's take MP5. You know the MP5?
Get a picture.
Okay, I'll get a picture.
Even if I know it, remember, we've got chat, we got listeners who are listening
fair,
in.
That's fair. You're not wrong. You make a point. Let me get that for you. I'm just gonna use this for our example of defining SMG here.
Sure. And one thing I will speak towards is that in pop culture, it's really easy for you to visually recognize a gun rather than like hear a gun's name and be able to recall what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because more often than not, you'll recognize it from like a blockbuster action movie or a video game. But like you're not going to the store to like pick one out, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Sage says, available in the USA. I have to assume because God forbid if I have access to those. So yeah, I imagine like between every country, your access to firearms are going to vary. But
Absolutely.
this is the don't touch my gun country, so.
Yeah. Alright, so MP5. So this is MP5. I'm sure pretty familiar.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Do I see a tiny little pistol like glued in here? Like the
And
internal
that's-
workings of a pistol right here?
So I'll get to that in a moment. Why it kind of looks like that. Don't worry. I'll get to that.
Okay.
But you're not entirely
brain
wrong.
is looking for associations.
I know. And believe it or not, you're not entirely wrong. Because as I'm about to mention, this is a submachine gun, and as it uses the same, typically uses the same caliber as a pistol caliber. You think pistol, one-handed, uses your 9mm bullets. Believe it or not, this also uses 9mm, or there's a other technical name for it, but again, I'm simplifying.
Okay.
So this also fires 9mm, the same caliber as a pistol. What makes it a submachine gun is, one, again, it is a machine gun, which I'm sure, I'm going to mention right now, I'm sure when some of you think machine gun, you probably think those big, raw LMGs or miniguns. No. Machine gun.
Yeah, I like AR-15 is probably the one most people are familiar with these days.
Exactly, but believe it or not, machine gun applies here too, because machine gun is, at its very simple term, just machined gun that has machine parts that make it do the automatic shooting thing.
Ah, okay. So it's one of those bullshit things where it's like all SMGs are assault rifles or machine guns, but
Yeah. That's why they're called submachine guns, because at the end of the day, it's still a machine gun, quote unquote, because it still has the act of automatic firing and machined parts that make it happen.
I swear, like, when people talk about it, they tend to use assault rifle and machine gun interchangeably, which I'm sure isn't accurate.
Not really. I'll get to that. But so this is but this is called a submachine gun because of, you guessed it, the caliber it's using.
Okay.
So it's called sub because I think the reason, if you want to get a little more technical, it's called submachine gun because it's subsonic, or not subsonic. That's actually different entirely.
Okay. And it's not submissive either.
No. We're not getting to that.
Alright.
But yeah, so usually it's because the caliber is being fired. It's still firing a pistol caliber, but it's firing it in an automatic fashion. That it can fire in full auto or whatever method you want to fire it in. And because the barrel is longer than a pistol, it will have a bit more force behind it.
Okay.
Which, one more quick detour while I mentioned it, believe it or not, it might, I don't know if it seems obvious or not, but the barrel length actually also affects the velocity of your bullet.
I think I've heard that before.
Yep.
And you want to know where I heard that from? Mythbusters.
Yep.
Because
The
they were talking about that in terms of not a modern firearm, but an air cannon.
Yep.
But same
Basically,
principle. Instead of using black powder, they use air.
The longer the barrel, the more velocity you get, up to a certain point. Obviously, if your barrel gets, like, ludicrously comedy long, then you're gonna... But,
I mean,
obviously...
I swear I showed Taya this one anime gun, which was comically long. I'm not sure if you remember this.
I think? No, show it again.
Let's see. Here we go.
That, yeah, see, that starts getting
this is
anime ridiculousness, and also, at that point, yeah, you would actually start kind of losing power. But anyways...
Yep. And so, basically, the story, they were like, oh, hey, longer gun means faster bullet, which also means longer range, right? So let's make a character that has a ridiculously long firearm so that the protagonist has to deal with, like, sniper battle on acid.
Yeah, they're not wrong in the logic, but yeah, that length, that's just getting absurd at this point. That's his own problem, so we won't go there. But for our real life, common sense stuff, yes, the longer the barrel, the better your velocity. The core principle being because there's more time for the gas to push that bullet out at faster speeds and more rifling to create more spin.
Has there ever been, like, science done to determine the terminal velocity of a bullet? Like, how fast is the fastest a bullet can go?
I'm pretty sure there has been. I don't think I've looked that up myself yet, though. That's
Because,
something
like,
interesting I can look into.
I gotta imagine, like, you know, for you guys to know what I'm talking about, is that based on air resistance, everything has a maximum speed it can go through the air. Once it reaches that speed, the amount of force pushing you backwards with the air you're going through, like, imagine if you're trying to go through water, same principle, the amount of force pushing back on you can never be overcome with any more force.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so, yeah, longer barrel means more force. So that's what makes submachine guns a league above pistols, in that they're using the same caliber, but a barrel's a bit longer, so you can get a bit more force out of it. So, and again, machine gun because it's the act of automatic fire. So, submachine gun.
Right.
That's what makes an SMG. Now it makes an assault rifle, which is also a machine gun, but not a submachine gun. Once again, mostly, not fully, but mostly comes back to, once again, caliber. And this is where you start getting into your bigger calibers. Things beyond pistol caliber. Things like, let's just throw the common ones you might hear. So, your calibers like 306.
Okay.
So that's an example. Let's see, what's another common one? Because I know so many off the top of my head. I want to make sure I'm listing the right ones for this demonstration.
Okay. Let me list some of the ones I remember. Let's see.
Okay, go ahead. Yep, go ahead. What do you remember?
There's 22, 308, 45, 50 cal.
Okay, hold on. A little slower? It's just a little slower, just so I can hear it all.
There's like an Op 22, which is like more rifle caliber. Then there's like 308. That's also
correct.
rifle?
308. I think that's what I meant to say, not 306. 308. I think I meant to say 308. That's on me. My bad. But yes, 308. Yep.
And then like your 45s is where you get into like your Desert Eagle, like your high-powered Magnum type pistol. And then
correct.
50 caliber is basically way more than you ever need, and they have comically sized bullets out of that.
Yep. Those are some examples. I'll give a couple more.
Okay.
A couple other examples you might see for common rifle rounds is one historical one with America was something called 30-06, or and when you actually write it out, it's literally .30-06. That's 30-06.
Okay. Yeah, that one sounds familiar.
Yep. And then another common one would be, let's see, what's another off the top of my head? That would be probably 300 Winchester.
Wow.
So these are like examples.
Someone guy put his goddamn name on the caliber.
But these are examples of bullets you'll see in your more assault rifles.
Okay.
These are like the bigger calibers. These start going above your pistol calibers. That's what makes it assault rifles beyond other factors like, again, more barrel length,
And that's
function.
definitely something you have to put a distinction between, because certain calibers are only compatible with certain types of firearms. As an
Exactly.
example, shotgun calibers are a completely separate class, because you
Extremely separate.
You can never put a pistol bullet inside of a shotgun and expect it to work.
Exactly. So that's beyond other factors. That's what makes assault rifles what they are. The caliber they're firing. And one big way you can kind of start to tell what makes a rifle bullet is how it's shaped, believe it or not. You want to pull back up that image of the bullets I showed earlier? Because I think it actually had an example inside of it.
Okay.
So, you see those four in the middle?
Yes.
Those are kind of what you might see in your pistols and submachine guns. You see the one to the left and right?
Yep.
Those are your rifle bullets. You notice something distinct about them?
Well, you got the length, but you also have this distinct, what do you call it? Like a concave
Tapering.
A concave tapering.
Yeah, concave tapering. Yep. Rifle bullets start having those on them, and that's now. Again, this is a common way, but there are always the outliers that are different. But again, commonly, that's what you expect to see in a rifle bullet.
Gotcha.
And that's how you start getting into the ARs, the assault rifles.
All right.
And that's part of what makes them what they are. Just a bigger bullet with more force, along with longer barrels to amplify that force.
Gotcha.
Yep. Now, going back to the semi-autos.
Semi-autos.
Now, these are still rifles, so they're still firing those big calibers I showed you, but the active semi-auto can be done in many different ways, and you've seen these different ways throughout history, and some you still see today.
Okay.
The active semi-auto just means with every trigger pull fires one bullet at a time.
Okay.
These days, semi-auto is literally just pull, fire, pull, fire, pull, fire, like that, right?
Right.
That's your kind of your typical semi-auto, but you've also had different versions throughout history. Things that I like to call bolt action.
Right.
These are like your early versions as you start advancing the technology and you start creating new ways to self-load these things. We can get into semantics about this, about how is it a semi-auto or not, but for simplicity's sake, we'll call it that. Because, again, semi-auto is just one trigger pull equals one bullet.
And I have to say, just straight out, I do appreciate how you're trying to simplify things, because...
Exactly.
That's one thing that I'm sure I'll have to guide some other guests to, is that one way that's really easy to get lost in a hyperfixation is to, like, get obsessed over the details.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
So, what makes a bolt action a bolt action? Well, it's the acts of how you're loading in those new rounds. A semi-auto, in today's terms, will self-load its own bullets, usually through, you guessed it, a magazine.
Let me see.
A magazine
Let
will
me see if
push
I can actually get a proper
bolt action? Yeah.
bolt action GIF. You can tell me if
that's
this is
actually
accurate, but
this one's this is one of those like really funky ones, so we'll not worry about that one. I'll get you one actually.
okay.
Let me
Yeah, the funny thing is that, like, if I look at, like, reload animations, a bunch of, like, fictional reload animations happen, and that can get into, like, a whole rabbit hole of rage bait.
Yep.
Because, let's just say not every director gives a shit about actually depicting firearms accurately.
No, they don't.
But we won't get into that.
Yeah.
Wildberry, how you doing? Welcome in. We are talking about firearms with our friend Taya here on Hyperfixation Station, a part of Vixie's workshop.
Alright, so what I have before you now, I will keep in mind that this is more of a modernized version if the polymer frame wasn't a giveaway, but believe it or not, bolt actions existed for quite a long time, and there's, your typical woodstock ones. But for the sake of just explaining the action, this will work very well.
Yeah, I do see an obvious lever up by the barrel.
Yep. So that lever is what makes it a bolt action. I'll explain why. Bolt action rifles, the way they work is you pull your trigger, you fire a bullet, Bob's your uncle, right?
Right.
Now, unlike your very modern day typical semi-auto bullet that will, with a spring on the bottom of that magazine, push a bullet up into the chamber for you, self-loading. This is kind of where we start getting to those weird differences I'll tell you in a moment.
Okay.
So obviously, like semi-auto post up, this one has a magazine, but will not automatically self-load that next bullet.
Okay, so...
The bullet...
Yeah, so the chamber's empty after you fire.
Almost.
Okay.
What makes a bolt action the way it works is that after you fire, you grab that little lever, right? And pretty much across all bolt actions, unless some company out there wants to be really special about it, typically you'll usually like pull it up. You'll kind of flip it up and then pull back. What that does is when you pull it back, it does a couple of things. One, releases the now spent casing of the bullet you just fired, because remember, casings of bullets,
Go ahead,
Yep.
go ahead.
Obviously. Yep. So obviously you release your casing because, as you know, bullets are in brass casings that hold your gunpowder. It's
Yeah.
now what do we call a spent casing.
We hadn't even talked about how spent casings are ejected from SMGs
Right.
or assault
You know what?
rifles.
I will double back to that then in a moment.
Okay.
But yeah, so obviously you pull it back and it ejects out your now spent casing, which is just the empty brass shell with no more gunpowder and no more bullet because you fired it. It blinks that out.
Okay.
At the same time, kind of the next bullet in the magazine is kind of just right there.
Okay.
Kind of just catches on that bolt you just pulled back now.
All right.
So after that, what you then do is, after that, you go to push your bolt back forward again, and as it pushes forward, it catches that next bullet and pushes it up into the barrel in a ready-to-fire position.
Got it. I
And then
definitely
after-
recall seeing a handful of social media posts of like cute people doing a reload of a gun for all their firearm enthusiast friends.
Yep. So obviously you twist up, pull back, empties. Then you push forward again, and then push down. The pushing down does a couple of things. One, it locks that bolt into position. Very important, by the way, because remember, the gases have to go somewhere, and you want it to go forward, not backwards.
Yeah.
So it locks it down to position and primes the pin that you can then pull the trigger again to fire again.
Right. Because these modern bullets, they all have the ignition system inside of there.
Yep, that casing also has your ignition system. So you push it forward, pull it down, ready to fire, pull the trigger, shoot bullet, and then rinse repeat. Up, back, forward, down, rinse repeat.
Gotcha.
That's what makes it a bolt action rifle.
And so, not very common today from what I'm hearing.
Not very common, but believe it or not, they actually are still quite common in the hunting scene.
Okay.
Because, go figure, hunting game, you're not in that much of a life or death situation, depends on the game you're hunting, but obviously you're not like fighting another person in a war, you're hunting a animal.
Right, and most likely the game you are firing at is more like to flee if they're still alive after the shot, rather than
Exactly. Yep.
turn and
Exactly. So bolt action, you can take that time to pull it up, cock back, load new bullet, etc.
It just adds an extra
And,
layer of safety.
Yep, an extra layer of safety. You don't really need a large magazine for these things, so magazines for these will usually be of 5 or 10 bullets, but usually no more than that unless you want to be really crazy with it.
I mean, everyone who's played an FPS game knows how crazy the magazine size get there.
Exactly. But yeah, so that's the bolt action. Now, this is still, in my definition, a semi-auto in that it's one trigger pull, it goes one bullet. But there is one difference.
Alright.
I've been using this term a lot. Self-loading. While it is a semi-auto rifle, it is not a self-loading rifle because it's not automatically...
the bolt action takes that.
Because the bolt action. Self-loading is kind of what you see more today with your actual semi-autos and your actual full autos and your SMGs. Those are self-loading because it automatically... And usually, self-loading very commonly uses a spring action at the bottom of the magazine. Basically, you load all your little bullets. Basically, you kind of just... You load all your bullets down into your magazine, right?
Right, and it's like under a spring tension down there.
Yep, there's a spring tension down there that basically, in combination with the spring, the bolt and a weapon will also catch the next bullet that's kind of like right there. Basically, what I mentioned about the bolt just catching the bullet is kind of like just right there.
I do remember.
Self-loaders do the same thing, just on an automatic machine motion.
Just bring it up right there?
Yeah, where the next bullet in the magazine is just right there, so the bolt will catch it and pull it into the barrel ready to fire.
Okay.
with the assistance of a spring on the bottom of the magazine to push every bullet up as it feeds through it.
Okay.
That's what makes it self-loaders. This isn't self-loader, but it's still, as far as I'm concerned, a quote-unquote semi-auto.
And then for like the described casing, I gotta imagine that they
Nice to
that it
meet
also
you,
springs that
bitch.
way. Yo, Cozy Wolf, welcome on into Hyperfixation Station, a part of
Welcome.
Vixie's workshop. How you doing? Do we have another firearm fan here? Whether you are or not, please have a seat and enjoy. We got another like half hour of learning about firearms.
Yeah. So, right. You mentioned the casings, and I did say I'd double back to that. So, how casings get out of guns? Because that is very important, believe it or not. You can't fire a gun if there's still a spent casing in the way of your gun.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought that? So, how they work, and is why I'm glad I mentioned bolt actions, because how modern firearms work is kind of the same mechanic on an automatic motion. Kind of, because you're not using a physical bolt action, but when you fire, obviously the gases will propel the bullet forward, but obviously the force will also push the bolt back.
Oh, okay.
It'll push it back.
So there still is a bolt in there, but it's pushed back.
Yep, it still is a bolt in there, but it's being pushed back by the force of the bullet that has been fired. And basically it'll go back far enough just to a point where usually it'll go back just far enough to where it'll line this now spent casing up with an opening on the side of the gun. There's an opening on all these guns.
Okay. I mean, yeah,
And actually-
you need a space for it to exit instead of going out the front.
Yep, and hold on, let me actually get an image of this so I can actually make this
Okay.
make this explanation even easier. Usually they're called ejection ports, by the way, just for what I'm about to explain.
That
So
sounds like it
let me
does
do-
what it says on the tin.
Yep. So let me just do like some generic assault rifle ejection port just for the sake of this. So
While
let me
you're-
just grab it.
Okay, while you're looking that up, just need to turn on the light in my room because I realized.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the sun just went down.
Yeah.
Watch my model go all wonky. Ah! Okay. Cool. Back in. Back in. A bacon. A bacon.
Right. So yeah, I got an image sent to you of an ejection port,
All right.
or just a close up of it, so I can, as I'm explaining it, people will see what I'm on about. So generic AR, but for the purposes of what I'm explaining, obviously that's an ejection port, an opening in the side of the gun that when the gun is in a ready to
just
fire.
literally a tiny little hatch.
Yep. Now, obviously, when the gun is in a ready to fire position, there won't be that opening there because the bolt is occupying that space.
Oh, okay.
But when you fire, the bolt gets pushed back, carrying the casing with it, until it is back far enough that it can then get plinked and ejected out of that opening.
Cool.
And
Gotcha.
because it is a machine gun, as I've told you, how machine guns are just automatic functions,
Yeah.
usually as it goes back far enough, there's some tiny little systems in there that'll, once it's back far enough, also kind of give like a little nudge to push it out the side there.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Because it's automatic, so it's ejecting it for you.
Yep.
That's how you're spent casing to get out of these guns. And then, in the same motion, just like a bolt action would do manually, now in automatic form, now that it's pushed back, the bolt will then start to push forward again. And as it does, take a bullet from the top of that magazine and push it up and into the barrel, ready to fire again.
And the cycle continues. Nice.
And the cycle continues, yep.
The Skitty's
And obviously-
doing great, Wrath of Darkness. I'm I am way into this format. This is the very first stream of Hyperfixation Station.
You're cute.
And Taya has been an excellent first guest. She's done so much. It's clear she's done so much preparation to be able to talk about this topic that means so much to her, which is firearms and the engineering.
Yeah. Yep. And for all the late people, I'll just very quickly reiterate this again. Hyperfixated on the technology and engineering marvels of it, not the herder ownership side of it, just to make clear.
And she has very strong views on not only gun safety, but common sense gun regulation.
Yep, common sense regulations and why, to the general populace, you really should not be allowed to access assault weapons. But again, I'm here to fixate on the part.
Reindeer, you absolute dork.
God damn it, Lyoko.
Oh, by the way, thank you so much for this 3-stream watch streak. Let's go. Welcome on.
Yippee!
I'm so glad to keep seeing you show up. You're such a precious bean. And thanks for the
yeah, so that's how Casey's get ejected. In bolt action, you do it manually. In rifles like this, it's the same idea, just in an automatic fashion.
Okay.
It does it for you, but the concept's the same.
Right. No, that makes sense. Like, I just had no idea that like there was a bolt that was still in there, but it was just automatically operated.
A lot of these weapons operate on bolts.
Yeah, because
it's just
the name of bolt action kind of gives the impression that it uniquely has a bolt.
You would think that to someone who doesn't know that. Yes, I will very much give you that. But believe it or not, in these weapons, there is still a bolt. It's just because of the machined nature and the automatic nature of it, it's now a lot more concealed and working inside as the internal mechanics, but it's still there.
And I gotta admit, like the curious skitty in me sees all of these different like components and stuff like that on the generic assault rifle, and I want to dial into each one and how they work. But for sake of simplicity, I'm following your lead.
That's fair. But actually, we'll talk about a couple of these real quickly. Notice the grip on this. Notice how it still seems kind of.
I guess this is also a naive question to ask, but
no, go ahead.
On assault rifles or any sort of gun that has a magazine in front of the trigger, is it appropriate to grip the magazine for stability? If not, where does the other hand go for stability?
The other hand would go on that barrel. You generally do not want to grip the mag as your offhand support. You never want to grip there. There is a couple of exceptions, but generally you want to grip the barrel.
Because if you've never seen one fired before, I mean, it looks like it's a hand grip size.
Exactly. It kind of does, but no, the magazine is not your second hand grip.
Okay, so you grab under the barrel.
Yep, under the barrel. Now, the reason you're able to do this is because, believe it or not, the way these weapons are designed, you can generally safely grab that barrel because I'll use the same image right now as an example. Do you see how beyond the magazine, that whole barrel, do you see how there's like those holes and venting and whatnot?
Yeah, that looks perfect for heat dissipation.
Yep, heat dissipation, but also I want to mention something else. The whole assembly of this, believe it or not, the actual barrel that the actual bullet fires out of is housed within that compartment there.
That's smart, yeah. Because
what you see on the outside is just a casing that your hand can safely grip. You're not gripping the actual barrel.
Yeah, because I imagine it gets extremely hot in there since you're dealing with explosives.
Yeah.
And, because, metal conducts heat really well, don't you dare touch a freshly ejected cell casing.
Yep. Yeah, the inside barrel itself, like the actual barrel, you do not want to grip that. But that's what that shrouding around it is, where a way you can safely grab it without actually hand on actual physical barrel.
Which, like, just to go back, way back to the musket right here. Okay, yeah, so they dealt with that by actually putting the barrel on top of this wooden frame, which
the barrel on top of your wooden frame. And to give them credit, one, I guess, I'm going to say this in quotations, but one advantage of these things being single shot is that it won't build up a lot of heat over time, because literally after every shot you have to take like a whole minute to reload it, so that gives the barrel time to cool down before it can get too hot. But yes, that would also help with that.
Well, Zenith, welcome in. I'm sorry that you're not feeling well, but hugs because you're a sweetie.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, so that's how you get around holding the actual barrel itself, because it gets hot because of because believe it or not, lighting gunpowder and the gases that result from it, go figure, very hot.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't want to grip that now.
Sure, it's no surprise if you think about it for 2 seconds.
Yeah, so that's why things like that shrouding around it lets you safely grab it, because you're not touching the physical barrel. So that's where your offhand grip would go. You grip it in the front there.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you never want to grab the magazine for reasons.
Okay.
The only time you're grabbing it, the only time you're grabbing it there is when you're actually going to reload. Take it out, put it in.
Yeah, typically you shouldn't need a reason to follow safety advice for a gun. So if someone tells you a do or do not with a gun, just listen and respect it. It is way more worth your life to do so than
exactly
be skeptical and question it.
Because, like, can you grip it there? Technically, yes. But while it's a low chance, you can potentially, like, shake the mag loose or accidentally bump it out or something by gripping it there. So it's better you don't.
Right. Alright. What's next?
Alright, so. Excuse me. So.
You okay? Do you need a little break? Like a water break? I can talk for a minute.
No, I've had some hydration.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just sometimes just like random like burps or whatever come up, so that's what I mean by when I say excuse me.
Okay, you're fine.
But yeah, so, and then real quickly, you see the grip. That's still kind of what we'll affectionately call pistol grip, because you might see that on pistols too. It's just a very universally comfortable and handy grip.
Yeah.
So that's another part of these weapons and why it still looks that way.
Right. And I believe
Just
right above
little...
the grip, I see like the little safety knob.
Yep, that is. In this model, at least, yep, that is indeed what that is. Because I see it says safe, yep. Obviously, different guns will have it in different places, yada yada. That's a just whole manufacturer thing. We won't get into that.
Right. But I hope you speak English.
Yeah, I hope you do.
Because I mean, like, in a lot of other products, they'll actually have, like, a picture for, like... I gotta imagine some guns have, like, a lock on there for the safety.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, now that I've gone over the history of this technology and how we got here today, and explaining how the modern versions of these work, right?
Yeah.
At least in basic terms, obviously there's a lot more of the nitty-gritty I could go over, but for the sake of not going too ham into it, I won't. But so now that I've gotten you the basics of it, now I can start going into some of the more interesting side of this technology, because go figure, with a technology this old and innovated on this heavily, some designs go in a little different ways.
Okay.
Some are good. Some are weird. I'll start with one of the first good designs, one you may see somewhat commonly. Something I like to call the bullpup.
Okay.
Now, before I give you an image, I want to just do it this way. Now, we've been over the assault rifles, right? Think of your just generic assault rifle, right?
Brave Doodle, hey, welcome. Okay, generic assault rifle.
Yep, just like put that mental image in your head, right? So you have your average assault rifle. Now, you want to know what makes a bullpup a bullpup?
It looks like a puppy.
No, I wish, but no. No, okay. But here's the point. So imagine that in your head. Imagine that AR. Now, take your magazine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And take it. And instead of in front of the trigger, what if it went behind the trigger?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where we start getting into the bullpup rifles, as they are affectionately called.
I definitely need a picture.
And that's where I'm about to get you one right now. But I just wanted to start off with that, just as a little silly.
God, because like,
So I'll give you.
because like, my first image of like, okay, if the magazine isn't like in front of the trigger, it's still gotta be relatively around the barrel, and so my first instinct is like to think of like a side loading option or something like that, but
Nope. It is still the same downward motion, but it's just now your magazine's behind the trigger. And I sent 2 images for 2 different variations of it, but the same idea. Like, that one's a little small, but this is, yeah. So, as you see, the magazine is now behind the trigger. These are called bullpups.
okay.
Now, they are still...
Got it.
Now, these are still assault rifles. For all intents and purposes, these are still assault rifles. Why they're called bullpups, however, is because the magazine is now behind the trigger, and the reason for that is one very simple concept, an idea. That being, how do we potentially try to shorten this gun without sacrificing total barrel length?
Okay.
Because, as I said before, barrel length is one part of what determines a rifle's power, because how long it takes to go down that barrel adds more power, right?
Right.
So one method people try to do to try and compact these a little bit, obviously it's not super compacting, obviously, but it does help. And one way to compact these without literally just taking your AR, slice the barrel, it's now shorter.
Okay.
Instead of doing that, because obviously slicing the barrel shorter costs you power.
Yeah,
So
naturally.
instead, the solution is bullpups, where you take the magazine and move it behind the trigger. And because of that, you now take your barrel, and instead of cutting it shorter, you just push the barrel back so it matches up with the magazine again further back in your gun.
Okay.
These are bullpups. This is a modern innovation on rifles, bullpups. For all intents and purposes, it's still an assault rifle. It's still a machine gun. It's just now your magazine is put behind the trigger so you can shorten the gun a little bit without sacrificing your barrel length at all.
Okay. I'm listening. I gotcha.
Yep. That's one modern day little innovation change up on the weapon formula that is actually generally good.
Alright, just a time warning. You've got 10 minutes to 10 minutes to finish what you want to talk about.
Gotcha. I would assume the talking about this more wackier side is how we finish it.
Well, however
So-
you want to finish it. I don't know what you had planned. But
That's fair. I get you.
I want to make sure that you cover anything. You make sure you cover anything you want to cover in that last 10 minutes.
I gotcha. I think just talking about some of these more wacky designs will be a good send-off, because now that we've got the basics, now let's start seeing the weird stuff.
Sure. Skitty's doing really well, Creeper. Like, I am absolutely enjoying. This is the first time we're running Hyperfixation Station, and I'm just inviting guests on here, like especially my friends, to share things that they're interested in, things that they feel like most other people would get really bored with easily, and so they don't normally have anyone to talk about it with. And I love it because it gets me a chance to learn about things I wouldn't normally have a chance to learn about, and I get to learn a little bit more about my friends.
Yeah.
Alright, continue.
So, that's Bullpups. Now, I want to talk about another innovation, one that's more on the, very weird side. One that was a good concept, but ultimately never made it beyond testing for reasons probably just it was too far ahead of its time, and the technology is just that weird. And that's something I want to call the G11 and caseless ammunition.
G11 caseless ammo.
Yep, and I sent an image for you. The G11 is the gun that they made to test this caseless ammo. It's the only gun that use this ammo.
Before I see this image, I just gotta say, that sounds like we're taking a step backwards in the innovation pipeline. We worked so hard to make cases for our bullets, and now let's take them off.
Okay, this is why I say this is where it gets weird, because it's like a weird, it's a side grade. We'll call it that. Well, it's a side grade. So, this is the G11, the weapon design to test this new caseless ammo, which never made it that far. Ultimately, it was phased out. It never made it past it never made it past the rounds of testing it went through, but it was, to give them credit, it was an interesting idea, because the concept of this is...
No, considering how, like, modern firearms, to, like, a layperson, may not seem like it's changed much since, like, post-World War II. It really makes sense that there are going to be a bunch of wacky ideas people are trying.
Yeah, exactly. Like especially with wartime stuff, you will see all manner of wild things. This is just one big example I want to show off, because it's wild.
It does look very different than what I'm traditionally familiar with for a firearm.
So the idea is that, I'm sure the name implies it, caseless ammo. It has no case. So how does it fire? Well, that little image down there of the little rectangle, that's kind of what it looked like. The idea is that inside this housing is your bullet, the round bullet tip that gets fired out. You have that. The idea is that when you go to strike it, this shell is part of the combustible gunpowder system. Okay. So as you fire it, this whole thing lights up and ejects your shell as you would typically expect bullets to fire. A fire bullet, go pew.
Okay.
But because the whole thing is evaporating and burning up to create this process, you have, in theory, no shell ejection at all.
No casing. Okay.
No casing. That's why it's called caseless ammo. It's still in a case of sorts, but the case is part of the combusting system.
Okay.
So it evaporates as it fires, and there's no ejection of anything.
So, the concept seems sound. What went wrong?
The concept was sound. The idea was that, if there's no ejection happening, one, there's less mess with having to picking up all the shell casings or leaving behind. You don't make a mess. You also can probably try to save some space for other mechanics in this weapon. Now that you don't have the whole ejection system, you can make room for different stuff. That's the idea behind it. But especially given this was made in like the 60s, I think? Yeah, 60s. For the time, especially for the time, this technology was a little ahead of its time.
Okay, that's fair.
Despite the fact that, the idea is that there's no ejection system because you don't have to eject any shells, there's nothing to eject, it still created a mess with all the gunpowder residue being left behind in this weapon. And the feeding system for this gun specifically was very complicated. Do you see that dial on the side there?
Yeah, it looks like you have to open up the entire back to load the gun.
This used a clockwork loading system to get those caseless rounds into your barrel.
Okay. The instant you put
So-
clockwork into something, it's already complicated.
So basically, at the end of the day, the idea was sound, but between the gunpowder residue and just how overly complicated the mechanisms were with that clockwork system, it just got phased out.
Gotcha.
The idea was sound, don't get me wrong. They wanted to try to minimize the waste of shells being popped out and whatnot, but it ultimately just became too much with the clockwork to feed it all in. It just became too much. The idea was sound, but it didn't get very far.
Makes sense.
This is one of those weird ideas.
All right, I think we have time for one more weird idea.
Yeah, one more not quite normal design. Right. Oh, do you want to hear about the gyrojet?
Do I ever?
The gyrojet is something very modern, and this is a very modern, like, innovation. Let me get a good image of the gyrojet. Copy image. Paste. There we go. This is gonna be another one of those weird ones.
Okay, well, on the surface, it's still pistol-shaped, so...
Yeah, so it's pistol shaped. So, okay, oh god, Julie already kind of knows what it is, but Julie, say your comments, let me explain this. I know what you're thinking. But okay, so, when you look at this, you think pistol, right?
Yeah, but having the bullets laid beside there, I'm noticing no casing.
You're noticing no casing, that's right. That seems, very weird, doesn't it? So you're probably thinking, how does this weird-looking thing fire exactly, right?
Honestly, it's... My brain wants to say, oh, it's a Nerf dart.
No, not Nerf dart.
I know it's not,
So-
but it's just kind of funny.
And when you fire this gyrojet, the thing being fired out is that whole thing. That whole thing is the entire bullet. All of that's fired out. That is the
Okay.
entire bullet. So you're probably wondering, how in the darn doohickey does this thing fire? Well, what have I told you? These are rocket-propelled bullets.
Okay. I mean, I mentioned before that rocket fuel and gunpowder have similar traits, so...
So the idea behind the gyrojet here, this beauty of extremely wild innovation, is that there's a little hatch there that you kind of open, you load in one of these big honkadong bullets, and you go to pull the trigger and it fires. But how it fires is that it's a little different. Do you see that silver little arc thing there above the trigger?
Right above the trigger, yeah.
Yeah. So, real quick, very quickly, I assume you know when you fire a gun, it pulls a hammer that strikes the bullet that makes it fire, right? I assume you know that much?
Yeah, and there's like a little pin target in the back of it.
Yeah.
You hit.
So this is the hammer. You might be thinking, why in the blue blazes is the hammer facing backwards and at the front of the bullet? What the hell?
Well, I gotta
Because-
imagine it's to actually press the bullet against the mechanism in the back
Yep.
of the barrel.
When you pull the trigger, this hammer flings up, pushes the bullet back into a prefixed pin in the very back, which, when it hits, makes contact and ignites the system. But instead of just your typical gunpowder boom explosion that sends the bullet flying out and leaves your casing behind, it's lighting little rockets inside that do the propelling for you and send that thing launching out. You're basically shooting rocket-powered bullets.
Which is exactly why you need those ventilation holes on the edges of the barrel.
Yep. So these are
Because,
basically
like,
rocket
it's
powered
not
bullets.
using like the it's not using the pressure built up
Yep.
in a vacuum between the
Yep.
black powder and the bullet.
It's not using the force of the gunpowder explosion in a very tight space. It's using little rockets inside the bullet itself as propulsion. It is literally just a rocket powered bullet.
Awesome.
And in case you're wondering how on earth this thing stays stable, believe it or not, it actually has some stability because being a modern invention, the inventors of this thing were kind of smart in that there's like 4 little vent holes in the back of this where the rockets spew out of, but they're angled at just the right way, so they create a spin motion.
Oh, okay.
So the rockets, so obviously they're shooting out and backwards, but there's also a slight tilt, so they create a rotation as it flies out.
Yeah. As anyone who's ever tried amateur rocketry will tell you, if you don't have the fins properly attached to your amateur rocket, it's just going to fly all over the place.
Exactly. So the angle of the rocket inside of this makes it so that these 4 little vent holes shoot the rockets at an angle to create this spin as it goes out and flies out. That's a gyrojet. This thing is fucking wacky.
And honestly, it
it
is really inspiring. Like I firmly believe that engineering is an art. You know, for the people who design these things, the ingenuity and the creativity is absolutely inspiring.
Absolutely, and you'll see all manner of that. I like talking about this one because it's just that wild. And believe it or not, it's not like any failed experiment. These exist. Is there a lot of them? No, there's not a lot of them, but they do exist.
I will ask: is there is there a particular reason why you would want to use this gun over a conventional firearm?
Like 5 of those? Jeez, all right. Look, you collected gyrojets. I guess one thing could be is that, this kind of goes back to the G11. As you can tell, there's no casing.
There's no
to
casing.
eject.
It does solve that problem. I gotta imagine that ammo's gotta be super expensive.
Oh, don't worry. Yeah, but I think that's one reason why there's not a ton of these and why it's not why it's not in common service. Obviously, it's not a cheap weapon at all. It's definitely right. It's so new that it's definitely still it's still pretty new. It probably has to work out some kinks and stuff if it wants to actually somehow be a regulation weapon. But I don't think it'll be regulation. It's just something to be wild.
Yeah.
But it's also wild, but also kind of actually works, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you see all of these, really creative fictional guns, which are, on various degrees of plausibility, but to actually see the innovation in real life is really cool.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we've reached the end of our time. So, my last question to you, Taya, is for me and for anyone else in chat who got really interested in firearms based on what we talked about, what would be the easiest way for us to learn more
cute.
and try it out for ourselves? For a beginner.
To anyone who wanted to start with firearms.
Start with firearms or maybe just learn more about firearms.
Well, as corny as this might sound, believe it or not, Wikipedia, great source. That's where I got a lot of these images from, believe it or not.
Okay.
Not all of them, but a lot of them I got them from Wikipedia, because there's a great source to just learn about the history that all these things went through. Between, how they came to be, how various inventions came to be that diversified firearms, you name it.
Wikipedia can be a huge rabbit hole, for sure.
Exactly, it can be. So, as far as just learning about it, that is a good starting point, and from there you can learn a lot. And of course, if you want to really go down the rabbit hole, believe it or not, Wikipedia, as Vixie said, will be a rabbit hole. You can get so far down that real fast, especially with sources outside Wikipedia, trust me, but it's a good starting point.
Alright, and for someone who wants to try using a firearm for the very first time?
For the very first time, I would definitely recommend a range where you can get professionals to tell you in person how they work, teach you the common safeties of using one, which really quickly I'll mention again, the common safeties of never put your finger on the trigger until you are ready to fire. Don't point the weapon at anything you would not want to shoot, even if you're not intentionally pulling the trigger. Don't point at anything regardless.
Exactly.
Like, even if your finger is off the trigger, you still don't want to be pointing at someone. You don't do that. That's another thing. And obviously, make sure you check your safeties.
And I will say, I have been to several gun ranges in the past. I should have said this at the beginning, just to give context. But yeah, I have been to several ranges in the past, both indoor and outdoor, and each of them are very much tailored toward people who are coming there for the first time.
Exactly.
The masters of the ranges and the employees who work there, it's their job to introduce you and make you not only comfortable but safe
You're
with
cute.
those firearms to be able to experience them for whatever reason you want to
Exactly.
use them for.
And as I'll really quickly point out, as Wizard of Lizard, nice name, as they mentioned, believe it or not, a lot of ranges will do things like classes, or they won't charge that much to go to them. These ranges are there for this very reason. And also another thing that they mentioned, yes, also treat your weapon as if it is loaded at all times.
Exactly.
The only time you ever want to treat it as if it's not is if you've done the following things. 1, taken out the mag, and 2, checked the chamber, which is literally look inside, make sure there is no bullet in that barrel that I mentioned earlier.
All right. And if people want to find you, to get to know you better, where can they find you?
That's a good question.
Because I know we had several people come in and be like, God, this girl has such a cute voice, and she's really sweet in
Aw.
explaining this. If they want to get to know you better, where can they find you?
Aww. Well, as we said at the start, I don't have any, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, fucking...
No
I
content
don't
creation.
extreme... Yeah, no content creation, yeah. I don't have any content creation for now, so I don't have anything there to say, but I guess there's, like, socials you can find me on, I guess.
All right. Yeah, just that's what I'm asking for. It's like, where do you want people to try and contact you if they're interested? Or
I
no
would say-
contact's fine, dude.
If they wanted to, probably, like, Discord or maybe Blue Sky, but that last one has to come with the, you know...
Okay. So yeah, we'll say so yeah, join the Discord server. Taya, is it
Yeah,
okay to like
that's the safest
ping
bet.
you if they join the Discord server?
Yeah, if they want to talk about it, they can ping me in the server. That'll be the way to go about it.
Okay.
I would say DMs, but random DMs from people I don't know will probably give me a bit of an eyebrow raise.
So yeah, the Discord server link is in chat right now. If you want to join, feel free to ping Taya after we close. And she does have a Blue Sky, but it is 18 plus. So just to give that caveat.
Yeah,
Do
that
not
is a
jo-
big
do
caveat
not-
on that one.
Do not join unless you are 18, but this entire stream is 18 plus, and so I feel
Yeah.
no guilt about
Yeah.
posting the link
Yeah.
here. Here is
Yep.
Taya's Blue Sky if you want to follow her over there.
Yeah, the stream is marked 18 plus, but for different reasons, just extra warning again, definitely be 18 plus for that one, please.
All right. Well, once again, thank you, Taya, for coming and being our guest here on Hyperfixation Station.
Yeah.
And with that, we're gonna end the stream. And as always, thank you everyone for coming and listening to the stream. If you liked it and you aren't already following, please drop a follow so you know when I'm going live next. Our very next stream is going to be on Tuesday. I'm going to be doing some more artwork, working on one of my original characters. And if you really liked it, share it with a friend. I always love meeting more queer creatives and people who would be interested in this type of stuff. And a big shout out to Topaz for the 3-stream streak, Wild Bear for the 3-stream streak, and Taya and Zap for the 100 stream streaks. Shout out to Bite for the raid earlier. Shout out to Cozy Wolf from the follow. And And a big shout out to Taya and Conan for being my lovely, lovely mods. And as always, a shout out to my lovely boyfriend Zap and my sis Noelle. You all are amazing and you always make my day. So, that being said, let's go ahead and send off a raid. We're gonna raid into. Taya, do you have any streamers you might recommend since you're the guest?
Ooh, good question. Do I have any streamers to recommend? Let me see. Do I have any of that? I don't know if I do off the top of my head. I don't see anybody live that I'd probably recommend, so...
Yeah, no pressure. Like, I obviously
Yeah.
go off my follow list, but I wanted to give you a chance.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't think anyone I'd probably end up recommending is up now, so I'll just leave it to you.
Okay, so let's see who is live. I think we're going to be raiding into Flex with T-Rex, who is doing a 1-year streamiversary, and they recently hit a huge follower milestone. They recently reached their 1,000 follower goal, which is amazing, and considering how they're also a queer creative, they're so compatible with our community. So, I'm gonna send you all over there and give them some love and a follow.
Yeah.
Alright, that raid is set up. So yes. Thank you everyone so much, and we will see you all on Tuesday. Bye everyone!
Bye-bye!